Welcome to Pep Talk, where we discuss the state of Texas real estate market as it relates to property taxes. Here's your host, Paul Pennington.
Good afternoon. This is Paul Pennington with Pep Talk, and today we have a very special guest. His name is Chandler
Crouch.
There you go. Got it right. And so why don't we just start off with Chandler, the man, the legend, and the myth. This is what I know about you. That you got involved in some dealings with the Tarrant Appraisal District. And in those dealings, the media got involved covering what you were doing. And there was a bit of a blow up at the Tarrant Appraisal District because so many people came in support of you that maybe they locked the doors and people couldn't get in and so on and so forth. So I know that part. I know I've seen you on a podcast where you're being interviewed by someone. It was in a restaurant, and this guy was asking you questions. And then the other part I know about you is that you're a realtor, and that somehow being a realtor, you started helping some of your clients out with their property tax protests. That's what I know. So fill in the spaces there, the blanks.
Well, it just depends on how much you want me to fill in, but it's been a wild ride for me personally. I've never been a part of anything like what's happened here, but you're exactly right. I'm a real estate broker. I've been in real estate since 2002, and around 2017 or so, I decided I was just going to start helping, like, give back to the local community and helping people with real needs. And my thought process was, if I can just help people with real valuable needs, even if I'm not making any money from it, if I'm doing something valuable, then somehow there's value being created and my bills will get paid. And it's just an experiment. I'll just try.
The good you do for others will come back to you.
That's exactly right. That's right. And
I forgot to mention that you were doing these appeals for free.
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're doing property tax appeals for free. And
I helped a bunch of people the first year. I'd protested on my own properties in a few different counties, but let's say maybe protested 20 times. I compared to how much there is to know, I absolutely knew nothing, but I knew more than the average person. And so I thought, I'm going to just go and help people as I can with what I do know. And so the first year I helped about 1,700 people. And I was teaching people.
Let's stop right there. How do you help 1,700? I mean, you showed them how to fill out the protest and which boxes to check, that sort of thing.
Well, in Tarrant County, the system was very homeowner friendly, and they have this instant answer system where at the time it was based on an algorithm, and so. There was kind of an evolution, and I was just kind of holding on for dear life. In the beginning, I was just teaching people how to do it on their own. I made a video that was a how-to video that just taught people how to do it on their own. And then, much like a lot of realtors will do, I was just providing comparable sales. And I mean, they weren't properly adjusted or anything like that. I was just helping at the level I could. Okay. Then it evolved. It was too much to do. I was running comps for, all day and all night, and my team was doing the same. And so I just realized, let's figure out a different way to do it. And then I evolved to helping people on a webinar. I would get a group of people together, and I would do one protest, and I'd have everybody go along with me and do their protest at the same time I'm doing mine. Okay. And we were utilizing their instant answer algorithm. Okay. And then I got the idea that if this is based on a mathematical formula, if we just do enough of these things, we can start to triangulate what works and what doesn't work, and then figure it out. And we just started sending a bunch through the system, and that's exactly what we did. We figured out the algorithm, and then that's how the first year transpired. And that was so. It was a little different. I wasn't protesting for people like a traditional property tax consultant, but then I realized that, to help people like that as a realtor, you don't need a tax consultant license as long as you don't charge them. And I really wasn't doing the protest for people. So I wasn't really representing them. I was guiding them. But then I realized, like, at the end of the year, it was like a cat and mouse game. We would do one of those instant answer protests, and the numbers that worked all along all of a sudden didn't work. And so we had to come back in and retool. And I realized they changed the algorithm. And so the next year, I just decided I would put on my big boy pants and start protesting for people like a regular tax consultant and dive deeper. And so, from that point until today, I started asking myself, like, well, this year I protested for about 40,000 people, and it's just Tarrant County. And that's just like a regular tax consultant does it. And then along the way, I became aware of problems in the system and different things that I felt like were not fair to homeowners.
I just want to know, how do you handle 40,000?
Well, I'll be happy to answer that. I'll give a couple little bullet points that'll kind of round out like how all the dramatic stuff, the stuff that hit the news and all of the, hundreds of people showing up at the appraisal district and getting locked out of an open meeting. And I mean, it was just a dumpster fire on top of dumpster fire mess.
Okay, well, let's step back for a minute. What were you doing going to Tarrant Appraisal District? The board was having a meeting and you signed up to go talk to them is that it?
That's basically what happened. Was as I started protesting for so many people, the head residential appraiser decided he was going to start filing bogus complaints against my tax consultant license.
Now, let me give you a little background. That man also sat on a board for like a school district or something.
Correct. And
he was a member of the board of directors for a school district.
Yeah, correct. And he was actually the president of the school district. And I'm happy to name names, but it doesn't really add to the story. Yeah, I've named his name plenty of times publicly, but
so let me get this straight. This thing's just gaining momentum, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And this person who is in charge of the appraisal of residential appraisals at the Tarrant Appraisal District sees you doing this, and for whatever reason, he thinks you're doing something wrong. So he starts filing complaints with the TDLR. That's the agency that regulates property tax consultant. So, okay, then is that why you're going to the board of directors?
Well, yes, that's what all the dramatic moments were. Where those were all public board meetings at the appraisal district. And just to give you a little bit more background, as I was protesting for people, the first year was like 1,700 people. I started realizing there were problems in the system that I wanted to fix. And I tapped on the shoulder of my local state representative. At that time, his name was Matt Krause.
Hang on, stop right there. Hang on for a minute. Are you the person that tapped the shoulder of that person who is a member of the House of Representatives and said, it's not right that a person that works at the Tarrant Appraisal District sits on the board of directors for a school district, and therefore that representative filed legislation that says you cannot do that? Is that kind of this? Okay.
I'm that person. Yep.
Right.
It wasn't a new idea. It was an idea that I'd seen floated around, but nobody ever got it across the finish line.
Well, to give you a background, for 20 years, the chief appraiser, for 20 years, there was a person at the Denton Appraisal District who, over the course of time, became the chief appraiser. And during that whole course of time, he was a member of the city council for the city of Louisville. Then he became the mayor of the city of Louisville. So, I mean, yes, it just wasn't Tarrant County. Got it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And from what I understand, like even though there's like those lines kind of crossed, from all accounts, that guy was doing good business, and I didn't know him personally, but in Tarrant County, there were shenanigans. The head guy of residential was definitely taking advantage of his position in both entities to create an unfair scenario that where taxpayers didn't get a fair shake. There were problems in the system, and I'm trying to solve problems. And at that time, I was just trying to better the system and do anything I could. And so I helped get some of those laws passed. Kraus wrote the bill. It ended up getting adopted, or Hugh Shine, I think, took it and stuck it on as an amendment to SB2 at that time.
Yeah.
And it was
okay. So speaking to the representative to address this issue, was that before you went to meet with the Tarrant Appraisal District Board of Directors or after?
That was. Yeah, I started showing up to board meetings to just get involved and get educated on all this stuff, but that was before any of the contentious moments. That getting that law passed definitely did not improve my relationship with the guy that was head of residential.
The event that happened that got coverage in the media with the people being locked out, had the law already passed, or
yes?
Oh, the law had already passed.
Yes,
and you were at that board meeting. What were you going to discuss? Was it?
Well, what happened was I brought this issue to the chief appraiser and said, hey, this guy's filing bogus complaints against me. And I just thought that the chief appraiser was going to take care of it and go reprimand his employee. I mean, you take one look at the complaint.
Well, let me just stop you there. Mm-hmm. I've been doing this a long time. And I know, let me give you an example. I know of at the Dallas Central Appraisal District, they filed the one I know of, they filed a complaint against a property tax consultant that I know of one time. Okay. And it turned out to be a misunderstanding. But the reason I bring that up, that's extremely rare for that to occur. And it's really not. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure that it's I was gonna say I'm not sure it is right for the appraisal district to file a complaint against a property tax consultant. I can say that, but then on the other hand, a property tax consultant can file a complaint with the TDR about a chief appraiser.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at it like that, if we can do it, then maybe they can do it. But I don't know that's I don't know. I don't think I have not filed a complaint against anybody on the other side, and I've been doing this forever. So I guess I come down that someone working for the public's shouldn't be in the business of filing complaints against property tax consultants. But I'm sorry, I digress.
No, the merits of the complaint matter. I don't think it's a bad idea. If somebody's really doing something wrong and somebody needs to be held accountable for doing things that are in violation of the law, then I don't really have a problem with complaints going either way. But my thought process is if I'm doing something wrong, but at that time I had filed so many protests that, and they were, conducting the protest right alongside, and it's a cooperative thing. We have to be able to work together in a hearing to conduct the hearing and that sort of thing. So my thought process was, if there's a problem with me, I need to. Certainly, that's a matter that would go to the chief appraiser. So I brought it to the chief appraiser. Was like, am I doing something wrong? Is there and when you start reading the complaint, it was obvious that it was bogus. It was just a personal retribution kind of thing.
What was the official complaint against you?
I've got it all posted on my blog. I'm trying to think here. It was basically the idea that since I was a realtor, it all kicked off because of I had a house that I protested for, and that house had 3 accounts on it because there was some rural land that was a different account, and then there was a kind of like a mansion, and then there was a small residence. And when I just protested one of those accounts, and then it was like $800,000 valuation somewhere in there. But then that same client called me to list their property for sale. And so I went and listed the property for sale, and it was somewhere around 2.5 million. Well, and it was all under the same address. When I listed it for sale, all three accounts were listed for sale under one address. But whenever I protested, I only protested one of the accounts under that address.
It's two. Okay, there's a big house, there's a small house, and how much land is involved?
It was about 5 acres with a couple of ponds and 6 barns in Colleyville. So the land value was significant. And I mean, we could walk through the complaint itself and just go through like a myriad of reasons why it was not a legitimate complaint.
Let's just say he had an issue with that. That's one thing. But you said he filed numerous.
Yeah, I mean, it was really irrational. If you took a schizophrenic person and handed them the tax code and said, "Here, figure out a complaint," I mean, it's not going to be too far off from what he put together. I mean, it was really a personal retribution thing. The unfortunate thing is he did it using his official title, using official resources, implicating the appraisal district.
That's right. He filed it on Tarrant Appraisal District letterhead.
With his title.
And he did that. He did that at work, not as a private citizen.
Right. Right.
How many did he file? How many?
At the end of the day, I think it was 4. I mean, it was really weird. I was only notified of a couple in the beginning, and all of the stuff was redacted. And so I was like, you have got a complaint against me, but I don't even know. I started working with TDLR, and they were very cooperative. And eventually I found out who it was. It was the Tarrant Appraisal District by the hand of this guy. And then there ended up being a couple more complaints. And then the media did some open records requests, and they found even more than what was provided to me. So it's kind of a hodgepodge at the time. But I think it was.
So that person retired?
Yes, retired abruptly after a series of board meetings where, they were supposed to do an internal investigation on that guy and the chief appraiser. It wasn't handled right. They were trying to keep it off the agenda, sweep it under the rug. And so that's when the 400 people showed up to the appraisal district.
So when you went to the chief appraiser and said, one of your guys has filed these complaints, am I doing anything wrong? And by the time you get to the board, you feel like the staff is like, let's just sweep it under the rug and make it go away.
The chairwoman, she actually broke the board policy by not putting it on the agenda. That, there's a thing that said if 2 board members say it's got to be on the agenda, the board policy says it needs to be on the agenda. She decided unilaterally it wasn't going to be on there. And I said, no. And I sent out an email, and the media got involved, and it was like, this is not okay. We can't do this. But
you had your day in front of them. You were able to talk about is that true?
I never really got a fair shake, no. And in fact, part of the issue was they did their own internal investigation, and that investigation has never been made public to this day. And one of the board members said after reading that investigation, he believed that the appraisal district had broken the law. The violation would be official oppression. But my whole point in all of this was to make a difference. And so you fast forward, and now I know that this is a brand new thing, and some people like it and some people don't like it. But I believe that all of this stuff culminated in us having some taxpayer representatives on the board of directors. And now here I am in Tarrant County.
Let me give you the backstory on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah. So it's the 2023 session, and the big issue was the House of under the Speaker of the House, Phelan, wanted to have a 5% cap on everything. He wanted to have a Proposition 13 in Texas. He wanted what they'd done in California, do it in Texas. And the Senate wanted to increase the homestead exemption and do various things and compress the school tax rate, and the House did too. But anyway, so we went through the regular session, and they couldn't agree on it. They went through a second special session. They couldn't agree on it. They're getting ready to do the third special session, and negotiators from both sides got together, And the result was that law that was called the circuit breaker, that non-homesteaded, non-agricultural properties under $5 million can only market value can only go up 20% a year. That was the compromise. Plus, the other compromise was we're going to redo the ARBs and have a certain number of them elected by if you're a county of a certain size, then we're going to have election of, I think, 3 ARB members that come, they're elected by the public. And so, which brings us to another thing
was Will Metcalf the guy that got that provision in there? Okay, and
well,
I've reached out to him.
I don't want to talk out of school, but let me just put it like this.
Okay.
The speaker had another representative negotiating and felt like he's not getting anywhere. So that's where the person you're talking to was brought in, and the circuit breaker was established, and the ARB being elected 3 members from the public. That's where it was a compromise. They'd gone through 2 sessions. Everybody was tired. That's it. Now, what they didn't understand when they did it, when they said that we're going to have this 20% cap on those properties that qualify for the circuit breaker, and we're going to anything from 5 million down. They didn't realize they were literally capping about 87% of all non-homesteaded ag properties in the state of Texas. When they had no idea. I could tell you the backstory on how they came up with 5 million, but they did it and
just picked a number without realizing.
There was a phone call made to a certain person. That's where that number came from. But the circuit breaker goes away because it had to be reauthorized in this past session, which it was not. So as of 12/31/26 or 1/1/27, there is no circuit breaker anymore. Okay, but to your point, the elected ARB members are still there, and I'm kind of torn about that, because in all the years I've been doing this, I've only addressed the board of directors twice in like 46 years. One time was a long time ago in Dallas County. I was just giving them a recommendation for how you could get qualified members to be on the board. One time was in Denton County, and that's it. Okay, and sometimes in all those all those years, I never had the opportunity, I felt like, to speak with somebody on the board. And one of the podcasts that I've done on this show, I had a elected ARB member from Denton County, and she came over and we did a pep talk together. And I think that part of me goes, I think that's kind of a good thing, because now I can go to these elected board of directors and say, hey, something might be amiss here, or maybe consider something, whatever, that I have a voice. So that part of me thinks it's a good thing. The part of me that thinks it's a bad thing is when I see the Tarrant board of directors, and you have those 3, and they go, well, we're just going to ignore the property tax code, and we're going to make up some laws because we can. And then, in Johnson County, same thing. In Bexar County, same thing. So in Bexar County, I mean, we're just, if something a commercial property gets cut, we're not going to reappraise it next year. It's like irresponsible.
It's like cutting off your nose to spite your face kind of thing. Yeah.
That part of it I don't like, but I mean, this is a free country, and these people were duly elected, and so I'll tell you a story. I've had problems with the board of directors forever, and my problem with the board of directors is that they They might go into being a member of the board of directors, all the good intentions in the world. But after so many years, they get institutionalized and they're just pretty much a rubber stamp for the chief appraiser and the staff. And so then in 2021, we passed a law that said an ARB member can serve for 3 terms, and each term is 2 years. So we went to the legislature and said, wouldn't it be a good idea that if you're on the board of directors, that you be like an ARB member, serve your 6 years and go away, right? Because I've been on a state board, and after X number of years, I said, somebody smarter, there's somebody younger who I'm sure would do a great job at this. I need to get on. And so I'm looking, like in Denton County, they have a board member up there who caused a lot of problems, who's been on the board since like 2002. And when I first started looking into it in the 17 or the 19 session, I found in Collin County, they had somebody who was appointed to the board of directors in 1982.
Wow.
And he just got off in 2015.
How about
it's
that?
Like, hang on for a minute. What is this? Why do you need to be on there for 20 years, right? So we got involved with the appraisal districts, and we compromised and said, okay, it's not 6 years, it's 10 years. 10 years, then go away. Well, when you write a bill, there's the bill, and then there's a bunch of technical stuff at the very bottom about when it's implemented. And they had gotten to the people who wrote the bill and said, yeah, that's right. It's 10 years, you're off. But we don't start counting till 1/1/22.
Are you kidding me?
So by the time I'm retired in a rocking chair, those guys will be off the board in 2032. There's a institutional thing with these boards of directors, and maybe by having ordinary citizens elected by the general public, maybe something will change. Part of the problem that I've found over all the years, if I see an appraisal district they're doing bad things that adversely, in Travis County, they got into an argument with 2 local consultants, and then they abolished having a person-to-person meeting to settle your dispute. They had some kind of a computer thing. You never talk to a person. You take that, or you go to the board, and you're going like, what if you're 85 years old? Shouldn't you have the right to just call somebody on the phone, or if you have enough strength, go to the appraisal district, sit down with an appraiser? And anyway, the legislature fixed that, but things like that should never have happened, and they only happen because there was a weak board of directors. So
no accountability. Yeah,
no accountability. There was I'll tell you a recent one. Tesla has the big mega plant, right? Million square feet. And they have an ARB hearing. And they've got some abatements in there because they spent so much money, but they had an ARB hearing about the market value. That hearing went on for over 2 hours. The district had their data. Tesla brought their data. And at the end of the day, the value was cut. The chief appraiser goes to the board of directors, says, we don't like that value. We want to sue the ARB because we don't like it.
Wow.
And Travis County does that a lot. That right there, and that happened in 25. That's an example of a board of directors who aren't doing their job. It's not like we don't like the ARB ruling, so we're going to sue them. That's not the way it's supposed to be. So I've been trying to get the board of directors changed forever, and I'll tell you one of the most frustrating things with me. And I was at a conference, and I think you heard it, is the idea that we go down there and we work on legislation. We pay our own way. The only expenses we have is we pay a lobbyist, And so, and we have lawyers who volunteer their time and actually write the laws that we can give to the representative or get their input and put it into a language. And when you get down there and you're forced to negotiate with the representatives of appraisal districts, and then you find out that the money used to pay for well, they're getting paid while they're there, but let's put that aside. But the money to hire their lobbyists comes from the appraisal districts. So taxpayers are paying for lobbyists for the CADs who are opposed to property tax reform. Now, anybody can argue with that, but unless you've been down there and gone through it, that's a fact. That is absolutely a fact. And again, I think I know that the Tarrant Appraisal District
It's a great point,
got upset with the group, which is the Texas Association of Appraisal Districts, and didn't they say, well, we're not going to allow you to be members of that?
They backed out. Yep.
So I just think there's the boards are weak, and then on the flip side, you have activist boards like you have in Tarrant. So you either have weak boards or you have boards that go over the top.
Yeah, my hope is just it's the pendulum swinging. Like I didn't support the reappraisal plan, freezing values every 2 years because it would bankrupt the school district, and nobody saw it coming. And so far, we've escaped the worst possible outcome on that, but we're not out of the woods yet. And I just look at it like, I'm all for taxpayer advocacy, and I'm very pro homeowner. But you can't just do something because you want to support one group and forget about the impact it's going to have on the system as a whole, or the impact of another group. And I think that the longer this system plays out, the more we'll get more educated people on the board of directors. Now I think there's some legislation that requires them to go to some training. And I think that's where a lot of this comes to. It's a board member gets elected, like you say, they're well-meaning. They think they're going to go in there and fix all the values or something, and then they realize actually it's illegal to even talk about values. And so, and the problems that exist there are problems, but there's nowhere you thought they would be. And so I hope that it fleshes out a little bit and we get some kind of balance.
Well, the Travis County. I've written 3 articles about the Travis County Appraisal District, Central Appraisal District, and it's terrible. It really is terrible, and I think I'm not sure it's that they're benefiting the taxpayers in Travis County, but again, that just speaks to a weak board. Let's get to the last thing I want to bring up with you. Since you are the expert on Tarrant County, and you know all the things going on in Tarrant County, so it's my understanding that when they had the election to appoint, and I'm not talking about those who were or were elected by the general public, but the election, and tell me if I'm wrong. The election by the jurisdictions who have so many votes per jurisdiction that they elected representatives to the board in Tarrant County, that there was correct me if I'm wrong, was there a miscalculation of votes, or was there some kind of shenanigans about the vote that got somebody appointed?
You're on top of it. In fact, I just came from that board meeting where they were dealing with this issue right before this. And so, every taxing entity that participates in the election, they're given a certain amount of votes that's in proportion with the tax levy. And right. What happened was whoever was now the appraisal district is in charge of the entire election. They assemble the ballots, they figure out all the votes. They announced the winners, the whole 9 yards, which that's kind of a screwed up thing. There are a lot of things screwed up. But the one thing that happened that wasn't, the flaw was somebody actually copy and pasted the levy from the JPS hospital and put it where the Tarrant County College levy was. So then what ended up happening was the college got significantly more votes than they should have. And so
was that done on purpose?
No, I don't think so. I mean, right now, the board meeting, they just came out of the board meeting. They met an executive session. One person said that they wanted to fire the chief appraiser. It was one of the publicly elected people. It didn't even get a second. They decided they needed to investigate the issue. I've talked to a number of the board members and all of the people involved that I care to talk to. It seems like it was just a copy and paste error. And by all accounts, no matter how you kind of war game it out, if the vote totals would have been calculated correctly, the election would not have ended up with any different outcome. And if you just imagine some kind of real edge case scenario where something really insane happened, if the outcome of the election would have been different, which it's fairly impossible for it to have been different, then if the candidate that received those votes, if they didn't receive them and somebody else received them and they got that position, if you just look at how all of the board meeting resolutions, board meeting votes that have happened between the election ending and today, none of those votes would have changed. So there's no consequences at all.
The people serving on the board would be the same people serving on the board.
They would be the same people serving on the board if some kind of weird scenario happened where it wasn't that way, and the sixth place person would have got the fifth place position. Then all of the passing the budget, there was a hack that happened, the reappraisal plan. They just voted in to get a new CAMA software system. All of those votes would have been exactly the same as they were now, because the guy that would have been on the board we know exactly how he would have voted, and the person that wouldn't have been on the board was always in the minority on all those votes. So I'm kind of saying two different things. One thing is it wouldn't have been possible for the election to turn out any other way because of how it transpired. But if on some weird from outer space scenario, if it would have, then it still wouldn't have impacted any of the votes. I know I'm not saying that the clearest way, but yeah, no consequences whatsoever because of the mishap.
So where have they left it that they're just doing is the board doing the investigation, or they're hiring somebody to do the investigation, or is there a staff doing it?
Yeah, they're going to hire an independent third-party investigator to come in and investigate exactly what happened. And I think that the real issue is who knew about the botched vote count and kept silent. And even though nobody really gained from it, there were people at the time, they might not have known they couldn't have gained from it. They thought they could have. They might have seen that the issue happened and kept their mouth shut. And so they're investigating.
Well, let me ask, I think another question is, you talk about people who knew it and didn't talk about it. Who found out about it? Who let it out?
There was a board candidate that did not get elected in that election, and he's just maintained some level of activity inside the appraisal district system.
He audited the records and found the discrepancy.
Basically, that's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And he notified the chief appraiser, and he notified the Tarrant County College, and then the chief appraiser, every time he's been asked about it since then, he was honest. He's like, yeah, there was a mishap. There was no consequence. So we just move forward. The whole issue, the reason this is a big deal is because the trust has been broken between the appraisal district in Tarrant County and the people. And now we do have some good quality leadership that isn't going to he isn't going to turn a blind eye to an issue. He's going to see the issue, put it in front of them, and walk through it and figure out what's going on. And if somebody is lying and trying to, do something for their personal gain at the expense of taxpayers or at the expense of the system, then he's going to hold them to account. So even though this is another negative headline, it's a positive negative, if that makes sense. It's like they're dealing with issues now.
Is it possible the person who made the error didn't know it?
Of course. No, they didn't know at all. It was a typo, effectively. Copy and paste.
So if they didn't know it, there's no cover-up, is there?
There was no cover-up. What might have happened is another candidate potentially solved the issue and kept their mouth shut. That was unrelated to...
That's not staff, though.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't believe any staff knew that the error had occurred. It was a type error, and look, they're dealing with a lot of drama at the Tarrant Appraisal District. New CAMA system and the whole 9 yards. So there were just a lot of things on the table, and there was a mistake, and it slipped through the cracks. It's just an unfortunate situation.
Well, I know the all I hear is that the new chief appraiser is working hard, trying to do a good job. That's what
I agree. I agree. And all accounts are he's an honest guy. He told the truth about this. He should have told the board, but he's juggling a lot. And he was willing to come down to the Tarrant Appraisal District, and he's been a champion for honesty and been a good leader by all accounts. So it's just one of those things where now we have leadership that isn't going to be quiet. And so,
Okay.
it'll be behind us before you know it, I think.
Okay. Well, I really enjoyed having you on, and let me ask: are you born and raised in Tarrant County?
I was born in Grand Prairie on the Dallas County side of the line,
Okay.
and then have lived almost my whole life here in North Fort Worth. Yeah.
And you've been a realtor since 2002?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Where'd you go to school?
Well, I made an appearance at North Texas and majored in partying, and then dropped out and got into real estate. That's kind of the
Okay, there
short
you go.
story. Yeah.
At least you're honest.
Well, it's a great story, and it's a testament to the grace of God for me to even be here, like, doing anything halfway constructive, sober. So it's a good thing. But I'll tell you what, I mean, this is such an honor and a privilege to get to be on this podcast and talk to you. I mean, you're a legend in this whole thing.
I want you to promise me right now that I have regulars, so I want you to come back, and I'll stay in touch.
Anytime.
So sometime in 26, you'll come back, and we'll just do another what's going on with Tarrant County.
Absolutely. I'd love to. And I'd love to share. I've got so many different things that I feel like the property tax community, tax consultants, I think there's just so much stuff going on and questions. I'd be happy and honored. And I've got so much to learn from you. I feel like I should interview you. If I ever start a podcast, you may be the first guest.
Well, anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll have you on again.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.